The moment Torrie Wilson clutched desperately at empty air where her towel had been, she realized Sable had orchestrated the perfect humiliation. This shocking theft represented just one infamous moment in wrestling's most bizarre recurring storyline. Few can forget Hornswoggle's mischievous peeping after snatching a towel, or the absolute chaos when Spike Dudley left both Chris Jericho and Christian completely exposed at the entrance ramp. But these incidents barely hint at how far these wardrobe heists have gone throughout WWE history. Melina. WWE fans were buzzing with excitement in 2005, ready for another wild night. No one knew they were about to see something that would leave them speechless. Melina, at the top of her game, was getting ready for a big match that night. After a quick shower, she got the scare of her life. Hornswoggle was watching her through the curtain. She grabbed her towel and ran through the backstage halls, with Hornswoggle chasing right behind her. When she stopped to catch her breath, he did the unthinkable. He yanked away her towel and laughed as she stood there exposed. But that was just the start of his mean plan. A week later, Hornswoggle jumped into Melina's match, making her lose. Angry, she chased him under the ring where no one could see them. The crowd went wild when Hornswoggle popped out holding Melina's top high in the air. He went back under and came out again with her pants. Everyone realized Melina was stuck under the ring with nothing to wear. All she could do was scream in anger while holding the ring curtain against her body, trapped and unable to come out without showing everything. Paige? The simmering hatred between Paige and the Bella twins erupted into something far more personal in 2016. What began as a typical wrestling rivalry transformed into outright sabotage when Paige discovered her locker room had been completely ransacked. Hours before a major pay-per-view, Paige stood staring at empty hangars where her iconic ring gear should have been. The Bella twins had struck in the most underhanded way possible, stealing every piece of her performance attire and leaving her scrambling for alternatives as the clock ticked down. When confronted, Nikki and Bree's innocent act fooled nobody. Their smirking denials only fueled Paige's fury as she pieced together makeshift gear for her match. This wasn't just competition anymore, it was psychological warfare. The calculated theft revealed just how desperate the twins had become to derail Paige's momentum. They didn't just want to beat her in the ring, they wanted to break her confidence before she even stepped through the curtain. As viewers watched the drama unfold, one thing became crystal clear. In this rivalry, there were no limits to how low the Bellas would go. The Undertaker. When Kama Mustafa emerged with the Undertaker's sacred urn at WrestleMania 7, the crowd fell into stunned silence. This wasn't just theft, it was sacrilege against wrestling's darkest icon. What happened next left fans truly speechless. In an act of ultimate disrespect, Mustafa melted down the mystical vessel, the very source of Undertaker's supernatural powers, and fashioned it into a gold chain that he wore like a trophy. The message was clear. Kama wasn't just stealing property, he was draining the Deadman's very essence. The Phenom's vengeful pursuit culminated at SummerSlam 1995, where their casket match became less about victory and more about reclaiming his stolen power. Yet Mustafa was merely the first to dare such theft. The most devastating betrayal came in 1998 when Kane, the Undertaker's own flesh and blood, seized the urn to weaken his brother. Their family feud exposed a vulnerability few knew existed in the Deadman. Even Brock Lesnar, the Beast incarnate, recognized the urn's power when he stole it in 2003. As he dangled it mockingly before WrestleMania, fans witnessed how this simple object had become wrestling's most coveted and dangerous possession, one that 5 different wrestlers risked everything to claim. Back in wrestling's golden era of the mid-90s, when characters were larger than life, a pirate dared to plunder the most recognizable treasure in WWE, Bret Hart. In 1995, while Bret the Hitman Hart was cementing his legacy with technical masterclasses in the ring, Jean-Pierre Lafitte set his sights on something more personal than championship gold. The pirate-themed wrestler didn't just want to defeat Hart, he wanted to strip away his identity. In one of wrestling's boldest heists, Lafitte swiped Hart's iconic pink and black leather jacket, the very symbol that made the Hitman instantly recognizable to fans worldwide. This wasn't just stealing clothing, it was taking a piece of Hart's wrestling soul, an item as crucial to his character as his legendary sharpshooter finisher. The The theft transformed their rivalry from a standard wrestling program into something deeply personal that had fans genuinely concerned. Hart's famous jacket seemed lost forever until an unexpected hero emerged, a devoted superfan who somehow tracked down the stolen garment and returned it to its rightful owner. This real-life treasure hunt showed just how powerful wrestling's connection with its audience could be, turning an ordinary fan into part of one of the Hitman's most memorable storylines. Bianca Belair. The night Bianca Belair conquered Survivor Series as Raw's last woman standing should have been pure celebration. Instead, she returned backstage to discover her custom-designed gear had vanished without a trace. The EST of WWE took to Instagram with an urgent message that sent shockwaves through the wrestling community. Her one-of-a-kind attire featuring the Raw logo had been stolen right from under her nose. She warned fans that if they saw the gear being sold online, it was stolen. For Belair, this wasn't just about losing expensive wrestling attire. These were pieces of WWE history that represented her groundbreaking achievement as the first black woman to capture the Raw Women's Championship and headline a major pay-per-view. The theft came at an already unsettling time for the superstar, who had recently shared her harrowing experience with a fan who had followed her from the arena. The dual invasions of her professional and personal space revealed the darker side of wrestling fame that superstars like Belair must navigate. Even as she continued dominating the ring with her signature hair whip and unmatched athleticism, the champion's stolen gear served as a reminder that sometimes the most disrespectful attacks happen when the cameras stop rolling. Rey Mysterio. When Andrade tore Rey Mysterio's mask from his face in 2019, he didn't just steal fabric, he ripped away decades of sacred luchador tradition in front of millions. The theft came after weeks of mounting tension, where Andrade had crossed an unforgivable line by targeting Mysterio's son Dominic. For Rey, this wasn't just professional anymore, it had become dangerously personal. In lucha libre culture, a mask isn't simply wrestling attire, it's the physical embodiment of a fighter's honor, legacy, and spiritual identity. By stealing Mysterio's iconic covering, Andrade committed what many Mexican wrestling fans considered sacrilege. The raw emotion that followed shocked even hardened WWE viewers. During what should have been a routine post-match interview, Mysterio exploded into action, abandoning all composure as he launched himself at Andrade with furious fists flying. The normally composed veteran transformed into a father and warrior defending something far more precious than championship gold. When Mysterio finally reclaimed his mask, the moment transcended typical wrestling storylines. This wasn't scripted drama, it was the genuine protection of a cultural heritage that extends beyond the ring and into the very heart of Mexican wrestling tradition. Kurt Angle. The night Chris Benoit stole Kurt Angle's Olympic gold medals transformed their technical wrestling rivalry into something deeply personal and psychologically devastating. Their feud began as a pure wrestling challenge, the Olympic hero against the technical master. Angle, draped in American glory and Olympic accomplishment, initially dismissed Benoit's skills despite his reputation as one of wrestling's most precise performers. That dismissal sparked something dangerous in Benoit, who calculated a plan more hurtful than any submission hold. In a shocking moment that silenced the WWE universe, Benoit revealed he had stolen Angle's most prized possessions, the Olympic gold medals that defined Angle's entire identity. For Angle, these weren't just sporting achievements, but the physical proof of his life's greatest accomplishment. Their theft struck at his very core, driving him to a near-manic state as he demanded their return with increasing desperation. The intensity peaked at Judgment Day, where Angle finally reclaimed his stolen medals after a match that showcased both men's technical brilliance. Their feud would continue with legendary encounters until Benoit's tragic death. The medal theft remains one of wrestling's most effective psychological warfare tactics, a moment when stealing something meant far more than just taking physical property. It represented an attack on a wrestler's very soul. Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's path to wrestling dominance seemed unstoppable. The Australian powerhouse had shattered records as the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion and made history by claiming both NXT titles simultaneously. Her intense ring style and no apologies attitude had fans worldwide believing they were watching the birth of a legend. Then came the theft that wasn't part of any script. While touring with WWE, Ripley experienced the kind of violation no champion expects. Her Women's Tag Team Championship belt vanished without a trace. This wasn't kayfabe drama crafted by creative writers. It was a real crime that left the normally intimidating Ripley visibly shaken. As news spread across social media, fans rallied behind their champion. The stolen belt represented more than gold and leather. It symbolized Ripley's journey, sacrifices, and hard-fought victories. The genuine outrage from the wrestling community blurred the lines between performance and reality as everyone demanded justice. Despite extensive searching, the original belt never resurfaced, and the thief remained anonymous. WWE eventually presented Ripley with a replacement championship, identical in appearance but forever different in meaning. For Ripley, the new belt carried a bittersweet reminder that in wrestling, sometimes the most painful losses happen outside the ring. Chris Jericho and Christian. As the countdown to Showtime ticked away backstage, Chris Jericho and Christian faced a crisis that no amount of wrestling experience had prepared them for. Their ring gear had completely vanished. The shocking discovery left them with minutes to decide, cancel their segment or improvise. These veterans weren't about to disappoint thousands of fans, so they made the bold choice to appear wearing nothing but hastily wrapped towels. When their entrance music hit, the WWE Universe erupted in confused laughter as the two stars awkwardly made their way toward the ring, clutching at the precarious white cloths around their waists. Their red-faced determination to maintain some dignity only made the moment more hilarious. Then came the true ambush. Just as they reached the entrance ramp, Spike Dudley, the smallest yet most daring of the Dudley clan, executed wrestling's most unexpected attack. He darted out from hiding, yanked both towels away with one swift motion, and left Jericho and Christian completely exposed before thousands of stunned onlookers. The arena exploded with shock and laughter as the two superstars scrambled for cover, their faces showing genuine panic that no acting could replicate. In that chaotic moment, fans witnessed something rarely seen in the carefully choreographed world of WWE, real, unscripted embarrassment that would be replayed and remembered long after the scripted matches were forgotten. Taichi. In the fierce battleground of New Japan Pro Wrestling, a stolen weapon transformed Taichi and Tama Tonga's rivalry into a blood feud that fans couldn't look away from. The Iron Finger, a fearsome hand weapon with a dark legacy, became the prize in their twisted game. Originally wielded by the legendary Takashi Iizuka, this wasn't just metal and leather, it was NJPW history that Taichi had rightfully inherited. When Bullet Club's Tama Tonga snatched the Iron Finger from Taichi's possession, the theft cut deeper than any wrestling move could. Night after night, Tonga flaunted his stolen prize, using Taichi's own weapon against opponents, while the Suzuki Gun member watched in growing rage. The crowd felt Taichi's humiliation each time Tonga entered, wearing the Iron Finger like a trophy. This wasn't just about winning matches anymore. It was about reclaiming a piece of wrestling heritage that had been violently taken. Their hatred culminated at Wrestling Dontaku 2021, where both men risked life and limb in a brutal ladder match. As Taichi finally clutched his reclaimed Iron Finger above the ring, fans witnessed more than a victory. They saw the restoration of a wrestling legacy that had nearly been stolen forever. Chris Jericho. A championship belt disappearing mid-celebration is standard WWE fare, but when Chris Jericho's AEW World Championship vanished in 2019, the drama wasn't part of any script. The inaugural AEW champion had barely begun his victory celebration when real life struck in Tampa, Florida. After decades defining wrestling greatness across WWE, WCW, and NJPW, Jericho had claimed AEW's first world title in a career-defining moment. Then, in a twist worthy of his own storylines, he left the priceless championship in his rental car, only to return and find it gone. What followed was a surreal situation where a real police department hunted for a wrestling championship, while fans worldwide followed the investigation like an extension of AEW programming. The Tallahassee PD's official statements about a missing wrestling belt created a bizarre merging of law enforcement and sports entertainment. For Jericho, whose career spanned legendary feuds with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and countless others, this real-life theft created a championship reign beginning unlike any in wrestling history. The missing belt became front-page news, even making national headlines as the unusual search continued. When authorities finally recovered the championship, Jericho transformed the entire incident into storytelling gold, incorporating the theft into his character work. In true Jericho fashion, he had taken a genuine crisis and turned it into yet another memorable chapter in a career built on turning the unexpected into entertainment. Yoshitatsu. In the stranger-than-fiction world of WWE, 2011 brought fans a feud so uniquely absurd that it could only exist in professional wrestling. The technical virtuoso Famoso Tyson Kidd crossed a line that left viewers both confused and entertained when he targeted something precious to Yoshitatsu, his own action figure. Unknown to casual fans, Tatsu maintained several backstage shrines throughout WWE venues, secret spaces where his collection of personal action figures served as the focal point for his pre-match rituals. These weren't just toys to the Japanese star, they were spiritual anchors that centered him before stepping into the ring. When Kidd discovered these hidden shrines, he saw an opportunity for psychological warfare unlike any other. In a moment of calculated cruelty, he didn't steal the entire figure, just a single leg, leaving the miniature Tatsu permanently unbalanced and incomplete. The theft struck deeper than any wrestling move could have. For Tatsu, this wasn't merely about a missing plastic limb. It was a direct attack on his pre-match focus and spiritual preparation. Each time he approached his shrine to find his figurine still damaged, his concentration shattered a little more. What followed was a feud where the stakes weren't championship gold, but the restoration of honor and the return of a tiny plastic leg that had somehow become the most important object in WWE. The bizarre storyline revealed how in wrestling, even the smallest personal item could become the centerpiece of an unforgettable rivalry. Gunther. In a shocking violation that blurred the lines between Gunther's imposing wrestling persona and personal vulnerability, the Austrian powerhouse returned to find his car window shattered and his personal belongings gone. The feared ring general who dominated opponents with technical precision and ruthless power suddenly found himself powerless against an unseen thief who had targeted him outside the arena. For a wrestler whose character projected unstoppable strength, this real-life invasion struck at something far more personal than any championship loss could. After establishing himself as one of wrestling's most dominant forces, holding titles across NXT UK, Progress, OTT, and WXW, Gunther discovered that his reputation offered no protection against ordinary crime. The man who had brutalized opponents like Ilya Dragunov, Alexander Wolf, and Rampage Brown now faced the mundane yet deeply unsettling task of filing police reports and replacing stolen identification. Most jarring for the Austrian was the psychological aftermath. The sanctuary of his vehicle, a rare private space in a wrestler's public life, had been violated. Each time he approached his car in parking lots across Europe and America, the memory of that breach followed him. While fans continued to witness Gunther's dominant in-ring performances, few realized the champion was simultaneously fighting a more personal battle, reclaiming his sense of security in the real world, where even wrestling's most intimidating figures remain vulnerable to life's ordinary dangers. Sheamus. As the thunderous roar of arenas faded into the quiet of his home, Sheamus faced an invasion no wrestling storyline could have prepared him for. The Celtic Warrior, feared for his brogue kick that had flattened champions like John Cena, Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns, returned to find his personal sanctuary violated by an unknown intruder. The multiple-time WWE champion discovered his home ransacked, with prized possessions and valuables missing. For a man who had built his reputation on physical dominance and unyielding strength, this invisible opponent had struck when he was most vulnerable, away from home, entertaining thousands while his personal space was being pillaged. Despite Sheamus's immediate alert to authorities and a thorough investigation, the perpetrator managed to disappear as completely as a defeated opponent rolling out of the ring. No security camera footage, no witnesses, no suspects, just the unsettling knowledge that someone had invaded the personal domain of one of wrestling's most intimidating figures. The Irish powerhouse, who had reclaimed championships through sheer force and determination, found himself in the frustrating position of being unable to confront this particular adversary. While fans continued to witness his dominant performances on SmackDown, few realized that behind the Celtic Cross necklace and battle cries was a man dealing with the same sense of violation any home invasion victim experiences. This real-life theft served as a stark reminder that even wrestling's most formidable warriors aren't immune to the vulnerabilities of everyday life once the cameras stop rolling. Wardlow. The imposing figure of Wardlow had been crushing opponents and collecting championships with his devastating powerbomb symphony. Yet in 2023, the man who had toppled legends like CM Punk and Chris Jericho found himself powerless against an invisible opponent, a thief who stripped him of nearly everything that defined his wrestling identity. When Wardlow approached his rental car after a show, the shattered window revealed a nightmare scenario for any professional wrestler. His TNT championship, the physical symbol of his hard-fought success in AEW, was gone. But the theft cut deeper than just the gold. His meticulously crafted ring gear, the costume that transformed him from man to wrestling phenomenon, had vanished along with laptops containing precious career memories and personal notes. For fans accustomed to seeing Wardlow as an unstoppable force, his vulnerable social media posts about the incident revealed the human behind the persona. A wrestler's gear isn't simply clothing, it's a second skin crafted to embody their character, often requiring thousands of dollars and months of design work to perfect. Despite police reports and desperate pleas to the wrestling community, Wardlow's stolen belongings never resurfaced. While AEW replaced his championship belt, certain losses proved irreplaceable. The original symbol of his greatest achievement and the gear that had witnessed his rise to prominence. The rising star eventually returned to dominance on screen, but the theft served as a sobering reminder that even wrestling's most powerful figures remain vulnerable to life's most ordinary crimes when the arena lights dim. Young Bucks. When the Young Bucks stepped into the ring against Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, they expected a brutal fight, not that their prize fashion collection would become part of the storyline. The shocking moment came after a savage defeat when Moxley and Kingston didn't just celebrate their victory, they helped themselves to the Bucks' signature Dior boots. This wasn't just stealing wrestling gear, it was snatching the very symbols of the Bucks' flamboyant personas and six-figure sneaker obsession. The humiliation deepened when Kingston, wrestling's blue-collar anti-hero, mockingly listed the luxury footwear on eBay. For the fashion-conscious tag team who had built their image around designer excess, watching Kingston treat their prized possessions like common thrift store finds cut deeper than any superkick ever could. This storyline theft came with cruel irony, as the Young Bucks had previously experienced a genuine car break-in outside the ring. The line between kayfabe and reality blurred as the brothers faced theft both as characters and as private citizens. The Moxley-Kingston alliance weaponized the Bucks' materialistic image against them, transforming expensive boots into powerful storytelling props. Their ongoing feud, stretching from Moxley's 2019 AEW debut through explosive matches at Full Gear and Revolution, found its perfect symbol in stolen footwear that represented everything about the Young Bucks' flashy approach to wrestling that Kingston and Moxley despised. Charles Robinson. When WWE referee Charles Robinson discovered his storage unit lock broken, he wasn't prepared for the devastating scene inside. His meticulously curated $55,000 collection, representing decades of passion for wrestling and film, had vanished completely. For fans who knew Little Nate only as the authoritative figure maintaining order in the ring, few realized he was one of wrestling's most dedicated collectors. The theft claimed irreplaceable treasures, vintage stunt cycle toys, rare Chucky dolls, Friday the 13th collectibles, and classic Planet of the Apes lunchboxes that Robinson had hunted down over years of dedicated searching. Most painful were the stolen WWF keepsakes, physical connections to the industry that had defined his life since his involvement in the controversial Montreal Screwjob of 1997. These weren't just items, they were tangible pieces of wrestling history that the respected referee had preserved for future generations. The security camera's failure to capture the thieves and the storage company's indifferent response only deepened the violation. Despite filing police reports and spreading word throughout collector communities, Robinson's treasures disappeared without a trace. While he continued enforcing the rules inside WWE rings with professional detachment, this personal theft revealed a vulnerability rarely seen in the man who had stood between wrestling's greatest stars for decades, proof that sometimes the most devastating losses happen far from the spotlight. Torrie Wilson. The locker room fell silent as Sable strolled into the shower area where Torrie Wilson was freshening up after her match. Steam filled the room as Sable approached the shower stall. "Impressive performance out there tonight," Sable remarked while Torrie stood under the running water. Sable watched with a calculating smile. She mentioned Torrie's Playboy success, making sure to note that her own issue had sold better. While Torrie was distracted rinsing her hair, Sable's hand quietly reached out and snatched the folded towel from its hook. As Torrie turned off the water and reached for her towel, she realized it was missing. Peeking out from behind the curtain, she saw Sable holding her towel with a growing smirk. Torrie demanded her towel back, but Sable simply backed toward the door, towel clearly visible in her hands, leaving Torrie stranded and vulnerable in the shower stall. Matt Jackson. When Matt Jackson unzipped his suitcase at the hotel, the $6,600 hole in his collection hit him harder than any finisher he'd ever taken in the ring. His prized Nike Air Jordan 1 Retro High Dior sneakers, worn just twice and among the most coveted items in his extensive shoe collection, had vanished. This wasn't just any pair of shoes, it represented the intersection of wrestling and high fashion that defined the Young Bucks' distinctive image. The realization sent Jackson piecing together a timeline that pointed directly to Ontario International Airport. The violation deepened when tag team partner Nick Jackson and cameraman Brandon Cutler discovered their bags had also been tampered with, suggesting a coordinated effort targeting the AEW stars. For a veteran who had spent 15 years crisscrossing the globe with valuable gear, this first-time theft shattered the trust Jackson had placed in airport security. The police report filed with Ontario Police and his strategic alert to StockX with the serial number showed the methodical approach of a man determined to recover his stolen property. The irony wasn't lost on fans. The Young Bucks, who had built their personas around luxury sneakers and designer gear, found themselves victims of thieves who recognized the value of their flashy style. What began as a simple plan to showcase premium footwear on Being the Elite episode 271 instead became a cautionary tale about the risks wrestling's most fashion-forward team faced when their expensive tastes traveled with them. Like and subscribe for 100 years of luck. Until next time.